Hello, my beloved tribe. Let's continue on with these stories about the Holodomor and what starvation does to people. All of these stories are available on ucc.ca or sharethestory.ca. This is from Nadia Mirchuk. She was born in 1925 in the city of Romny, Sumy Oblast, and she describes seeing the dead transported through the streets of Romny and the death of her cousin. I saw people sitting begging for food. They were so weak already that they didn't say anything. They just stretched out their hands when somebody walked by. Usually they were men. At first they would be sitting there, and later, the next time I walked by, I would see that somebody had died already. They were lying there, not moving. Then somebody else would come in their place. I saw this. We were returning home at night, and we came to a road crossing. 3 carts were driving by, covered in burlap. We let them pass, and the first 2 passed us. When the third one began to pass us, the wind blew and the burlap was uncovered. Then we saw that people were lying on this cart, corpses without clothes. They were thrown onto this cart. Neither I nor my parents said anything. We just stood silently and watched. When we came home, we went to sleep. I had nightmares all the time about these dead people, and my brother screamed during the night, and my mother would wake him so we wouldn't have these nightmares. This is what we saw. Our uncle lived in the village, in Shrivsky, not far from Kremenchuk. Arrests began, and the authorities would invent whatever they could to dispossess people. All the food that they had was taken away. My uncle was arrested. My wife was left alone with 2 children. His wife was left alone with 2 children. We didn't know anything about this, but later we got a letter from them. My aunt Halia asked us to take one of her children because they didn't have any food. My mother went to bring the older girl to live with us. Her name was also Nadikia. By the time my mother arrived, the younger girl died. Only Nadikia was left. My mother brought her to us. Nadikia was already ill with diphtheria. My mother took her to the hospital and went there every day and took care of her. But there was nothing she could do, and Nadika died. And here's another story from Anna Milko, born Obatsky village. She may not even be sure how old she is. Describes how she and her husband attempted to send food parcels to her family in Ukraine from where they lived in the RSFSR during the Holodomor. Anna Milko, what did I know? In 1928, I got married. In 1930, the catastrophe began. In 1929, we built a house, and after the spring, the authorities threw us out. Go where you want. My brothers hadn't been exiled yet, and we built a shed. In 1929, our house was taken away, and in 1930, we lived in this shed. In 1931, we left. My husband was swollen already, and we went all the way to the Urals. The Ural Mountains are in a kind of central to 1/3 of Western Russia. And we were there for a year and left. We went around looking for work. We were hungry, and we saw how people died. We ended up in Russia, in the Udmurtsk Autonomous Republic, and we lived there. In 1933, you had to get a passport, and my husband went to Ukraine. He stayed overnight at my mother's house. My mother was still alive, and my father was in prison already. My mother would walk 60 kilometers to bring him something. We would send them packages because where we lived in Udmurtsk, things were cheap and there was no famine. Remember, this famine was generated by the government to make people comply. There were good farmers there, and we bought some flour, dried some fish, and we sent 4 packages. One of the packages with 4 dried breads was delivered, but the rest were taken by the village council. Yeah, you just couldn't get food. It made it impossible to get food so that you would become compliant. And let's go with Halnya's story to finish it up today. Halnya Koza, born 27 February 1927, Verkhnya Tursa village, Zaporozhye Oblast, describes what she and her mother ate during the Holodomor. Halnya Koza, we managed any way we could. I was with my mother and my stepfather had gone with his son to the Crimea. What did we do? There was a river, and in the spring we would get up very early in the morning and go to the river. There was a kind of grass growing there, and we tore the grass. My mother said you could eat it. We would bring it home, steam it, pour the water out, and mash it up. And what was left was a kind of dough. We had 2 large acacia trees. Do you know what acacia is? It bloomed in white flowers. We would pick it, dry it, mill it, and make flour. Interviewer, from the leaves? HK, yes. We would mill it and make flour, and then we would take the orach before it was used to feed pigs, so that the pigs would grow. So we would take the cooked orach, dip in the flour we made from the acacia, and make some kind of pancake. That's what they ate. Trees and grasses. People ate whatever they could. They ate everything. The dogs and cats disappeared, the grass disappeared, bark from trees, leaves, everything just disappeared. Yeah, forced famine to make people compliant happens over and over and over again throughout communist history. Get ready for it. I don't think we're going to be able to stop it. God bless you all. Take care. Go, go, go. Time is short.